Okay, so today what we want to do is we want to get sort of the basic instructions on how to assemble the Onebot chassis. And, you know, what I want to point out is lots of options. There's lots of holes here that you can use for a number of different configurations, mostly so you can accommodate a number of different wheel sizes. So let me pause this and show you a couple things, and we'll get started in just a moment. So one of the basic things I want to show you is that because of all the holes, the mounting holes, you can mount these assemblies in any one of a number of different conformations, and that can accommodate a number of different wheel sizes. And it's also important to realize that it can be flipped around. So if there's nothing with the hubs toward the rear that seems to make you happy with the wheels that you're using, well, flip the entire mechanism around like so, and then it gives you a whole new set of options so far as mounting the wheels. But let me go ahead and pause this and get these parts spread out, and we'll assemble what we've got right here. Okay, so here's the basic parts that we need to assemble the standard chassis. You're going to need 2 of these angle brackets. You're going to need 4 of these 1/4-inch 440 screws. You're going to need 8 of these 6/32 Phillips head screws. Of course, the 2 wheels, the tail ball, a nut, an Allen wrench, a Phillips screwdriver, and your 2 servo motors. Now I'm going to start by flipping this guy over. I'd rather have the wheels mounted on the bottom of the chassis, like so. So I'm going to work with this with the label down, so this is the bottom facing up now. And then it's also important to notice that these 2 indents right here designate the rear of the robot. So the tail ball is actually going to be attached here, and we're going to want the wheels biased toward the front like this. So when we look at these brackets, you can see that they're actually not symmetrical. Okay? It's going to be important with these spring RC servos that the holes are actually kind of toward each other. All right? So it's ultimately going to need to be mounted like this. Not like this, and not like this, but the holes need to be toward each other. Okay, closer to the inside edges. And then we can choose a number of different conformations here, but I think to keep this simple, we're going to look at these holes here, these 3 that are kind of in a row, and these 3, and these 3. We're going to attach it to the front 2 here and the front 2 here. So keeping in mind that these holes are now toward the back, this is going to be attached here. And these holes are now toward the front. They're going to be attached here. And what I would do is loosely, and I stress that because you really don't want to tighten anything down, is you're going to loosely put these 4 1/4-inch 440 screws into these holes, like so. Just a couple of turns, just to hold it in place. You'll tighten everything down when we're done. This will allow you to have a little bit of flexibility when you're mounting your servos, make sure everything's lined up before everything's secured. It can be frustrating to try to fight when everything is bolted down. Alright, so everything's still mobile here, and it's important to realize, again, these holes are closest to each other. Alright, the servos are going to go like this in this case. So I'm going to take the hub and have it more toward the rear. So this is going to go on the outside of this bracket, and then I'm going to use 4 of these screws to loosely attach it. Now I'm not going to make you guys wait for me to screw in all 4 of these, especially since while doing this in the camera makes the positioning a little awkward. So I will just get this started, pause it, and then I'll go ahead and put the rest of these loosely in. Again, I'm not tightening anything down until all the screws are at least started. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I've actually already tightened these over here on this side, and now I'm going to quickly tighten these down. I tend to go on diagonal edges, so I go to the top one here on the top right, and then the lower left. Make sure it snugs down, and then I'll go ahead and do the same thing here. If everything goes well, the servos will be pretty level, pretty straight, certainly well secured. So now that I've done that, now these are attached, I can set these screws in here and make sure that they're all screwed down and firmly attached. Again, I tend to go diagonally and across. Now keep in mind, if the wheels aren't quite where you want them, you can actually loosen and rearrange these screws a little bit. There's a fair bit of play in all of this to give you a little bit of room. Okay, now the wheels, they simply go on like this. Kind of have to bring them in at an angle. Now the screws that you want to use, take a good look at it. Okay, it's 1 inch long. It has a short throat, so you can see right here. I'll hold it up to my ruler. It's 1 inch long. Okay, and there's a short throat at the top near the head. If you have a kit, and if your kit contains screws like this, do not use them. Okay, this will go in and potentially damage the servo if you tighten it down. So you really want to stick with these guys that are 1 inch long. You should only have 2 of them in your kit. And they're going to go in here like this. And you can go ahead and secure these right from the get-go with your Allen wrench. And I'm going to pause it and put both of these screws in. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got everything tightened down nicely. It's important to look to make sure that there's plenty of clearance between the wheels and the frames, that nothing's going to be rubbing. This would also be a chance to make sure that it's pretty well aligned. You can do some subtle alignment, like I said, by loosening and giving a little torque and twisting the assembly to make sure everything lines up as well as possible. Now you want to find the tail ball, and you can start screwing it in, just like so, from the back side or the bottom. And then once you have it started, you're going to take your robot and you're going to screw this in until the chassis becomes roughly level. Okay, so you can set the height of this by adjusting this screw. And last but not least, this nut goes on top, like so. If you have a pair of pliers handy, it might be worth it to give this a bit of a tension, just a bit, to help hold that in place like so. And there you go. Now you've got the chassis. You're ready to assemble your controller, your batteries, and get this guy going. So I will see you guys again soon.